excited that we've got a season 3, first and foremost, to tell you the truth. It's sort of been really lovely to come back here, and we've retained all our crew, and it's starting to feel really very much like a family. I don't know, I think that I just am excited to see where the guys take it, because they sort of just keep exceeding my expectations. So I hope everybody feels the same way. It's kind of, there's a nice energy, I think, around it.
So at the end of last season, we finally did establish over there, so the alternate universe. And this season, we've been so far kind of flipping back and forth from our world to their world, which I think is so cool in a television show. But they're all interconnected because you still have our Olivia stuck on that side, and a couple of other characters that we know from this world. We have the alternate Charlie Francis, who is over there too, and a new character, Lincoln Lee. So they're kind of essentially doing what our team does over there, but you're following, I make it sound more complicated than it is, but you're following our Olivia, who I think the audience is going to be kind of barracking for and hoping that she sort of gets it together and realizes who she is and where she belongs, which I think inevitably will happen. But the concept of having the concept of alternating worlds, I think is so exciting. I don't know when that's been done, and it's I'm just hoping that the audience likes it, because it's a real blast to play. And I also think that the possibilities are endless.
Since the show started, I think that I just think it's got something for everyone. It really doesn't sit in any particular genre. It's just got a little bit for everyone.
At the end of the season, when Olivia and Walter and the other Cortex-Fan kids come to the other side to find and essentially save Peter, Olivia finds him, and which I thought was quite a sweet scene. I think it's the most open you've ever seen her. She never says anything, and she says to him point blank, I've tried to think of so many reasons why you should come back, but at the end of the day you have to, because you belong with me, which is her declaration of love. And she kisses him, and he kisses her back and agrees and comes back to the other side. But Olivia doesn't. So you then have alternate Olivia back on the other side, and in the scene that the two Olivias had together, the alternate Olivia goes, "Are you guys together? Is that it?" So she knows that they're together.
It's tough to define them both, because I've got one who thinks she's the other and the other one pretending to be the other. So neither of them are just, it's not like I just have these two characters that I can play with, so I'm constantly trying to go, well, what do they think of the other, or what do they think of each other? So I have my own internal process, but I can't even begin to articulate it.
There's this weapon that we saw a sketch of before we went to the other side. Peter had vanished, and we didn't know what was going on, and all of a sudden Walter clicks that he's trying to find something. At the same time, one of the observers leaves a piece of paper on a bar stool for Olivia to find, which is this sketch of this device that has Peter basically powering it. When we went over at the end of the last season, we realized that Walternate over there has the device and is looking and asks Peter to look at it. And Peter realizes that he's somehow connected to this device. So then we come back to the other side, and I'm pretty sure that Olivia's directive from Walternate is to get all the pieces of the device to Peter. How she does that is sort of like the fun part.
The alternate Olivia just thinks that they're kind of together. I mean, she's got files and notes and briefs on all the cases and all the different other, like factual stuff, but, there's no notes on Olivia's feelings for Peter or what has happened between them all. So it's kind of been interesting and kind of weird, and because, Olivia's just thinks it's on, like she's never known any different.
That's Peter's journey for season 3, is that he's grappling with the idea that he might actually be fated to do something or be something or have something done to him. And I think that's a really interesting thing to explore. That's going to be the entire season for Peter, is putting together all the pieces of this machine until he figures out what his purpose in the world is, or what his, I guess, destiny is. The idea, it seems like, for this season is to have both universes work as completely independent story engines. So on that side, you have a fully drawn set of characters who are doing the alternate universe investigations of Fringe events, and then on this side, you have the same thing. So I think they're trying to find a balance where the show can live on both sides, and you can see what's happening on both sides. If we get it really right, if this show achieves what I think would be the coolest version of itself, then the people on the other side aren't necessarily good or bad, just like the people on this side aren't necessarily good or bad. We have our group of characters that we're following around, and each one of them should be sort of an interesting enough character that they just exist on their own right. So I hope that eventually this show gets to a place that whenever the crisis happens between the two sides, people, the people who watch our show will be conflicted by not knowing which side they want to root for anymore, because the people that they've lived with for a couple of years on this side, they still hopefully care about, but they've come to know this other group of people who are doing the good work on the other side, and they're not quite sure where their loyalties lie anymore. He made that snap decision that, you know what, the guys on the other side are going about it the wrong way. They think that we're at war. And I think Peter made this decision that all was not as it seemed. It wasn't quite as cut as dried as Walter and it thought it was, which is that we're being invaded and we need to destroy the invaders. Nor was it just as simple for Walter of, we need to just close the door and then everything can go back to the way it was. But what Peter doesn't have is the answer to what is actually the next step. What actually happens next when we build this machine, we figure the whole thing out. So I think that's what helped Peter come back, this unbelievable, noble gesture that they both made to come and try and bring him back to their side. But I think also he's curious about the larger mystery, and I think he realized that he wasn't going to be able to, that he was being used in someone else's design on the other side. The crossing over and then the decision to come back, that choice to come back for me shows that Peter has really clearly chosen this side as his true home. Rather than the blood connection to his mother and his father on the other side, he came back to Walter over here and decided to sort of be on this side. Walternate is a hard ass, so I don't think he's ever going to be a lovable character, but I think you can make a really good case for why he is the way he is. His son was kidnapped, his world was destroyed, just completely destroyed. There was mass famine, huge deaths, there are ongoing events, fringe events happening all over the place that are causing massive destruction. So he's in a constant state of war. Which is why his reaction to this machine, this weapon, is to think that it's a weapon and to want to use it to destroy the invaders. Whereas on our side, and I think this is where Peter's coming from, I think he is slightly less of a warmonger, but I think he feels that there must be something more to this thing. The most interesting stuff on this show so far has been figuring out this father-son dynamic and figuring out how these two guys who John and I talk about it a lot, which is this idea that if you stripped away all the science fiction, we still want to make sure that relationship is real. That there's a pissed off son and a broken father, and the dynamic between these two men as they try to figure out how to be in each other's company. So that to me is always the thing that drives everything going forward. I don't think he really cares about working for the government or being part of this fringe team. I think it's much more interesting to him that his father, this crazy, broken, brilliant, wonderful man, is like the Wizard of Oz. He has the answers to everything and has, through his own designs and then the consequences of them, both created and destroyed two universes.
I'm very fortunate to start with because we have, very rarely do you, particularly in television, get a chance to diversify as much as even as I do as Walter. But then to have Walternate, who appears to be a very different sort of man, has developed differently over a period of 20 years, certainly, is a great opportunity. And I know the other actors feel the same way, to have the opportunity. Anna Torv loves the fact that she's got two Olivias to play, for example, who are just different, just different enough to keep her interested. It's not difficult, it's just fun. One of the surprising, or perhaps surprising, strengths of Fringe over the last 2 seasons has been the relationship between father and son. And a lot of people have identified so strongly with that, the regrowth of that terribly difficult and fractured relationship. They also associate very much with the Walter character, an older man who is trying hard to redeem himself, to make the best of things. I think a lot of our perhaps older viewers understand that character and really identify with it and empathise with him. When that was sort of shattered by a breach of trust at the end of last season, we said, goodness me, how do we repair? Josh Jackson and I spent a lot of time talking about this. How do we, being real, get on with life? You know, do we, at this stage, what we do is we tolerate each other and we're civil to each other, but that deep trust that we had developed, that real affection that we saw, doesn't come as freely now, understandably. The relationship between Peter and Walter would be enough to sustain a series of its own, to be honest. So to have that as a core factor within a sort of a fairly extraordinary science fiction series with lots of other things happening, and really is a series that follows the life of Olivia more so than Walter and Peter, is fairly unique. And Joshua and I have worked really hard at it, and we still do. And we will still sit in the trailers and talk about how we can develop that and what the nuances are and the subtleties and how would you respond. And that we still do that almost on a daily basis. My hope and Joshua's hope, and I think for the sake of the series probably what will happen, is that something will cause them to bond again. It will be strong. It won't be the same. It'll be strong, probably stronger. There is an instrument that is capable, we think at this stage, we're capable of destroying worlds, you know. Perhaps the analogy could be the H-bomb or something, you know. So, but the only being that can make this work is Peter, which actually makes Peter's role in Fringe massive and iconic. We are in a process of discovery within the show of what is this, what is Peter's role in it, what is its function. You know, what Walter has said is this will be the death of my son. He's also said that this will destroy the worlds. We now want to explore a really difficult and a fairly new phenomenon, which is playing 2 realities. But here's the thing, we want to do it so that even though everyone will think, oh, there's a good side and a bad side, that we hope to be able to say, well, I don't know, you know, both of them are right in their own way. These guys that you meet over there, they seem really pleasant, and you know, and golly, it's hard. It's if we can achieve this, it's almost unheard of, I think, by the way, not to find someone to root for. That would be quite an achievement. And Fringe is never scared of trying hard things, and this is really difficult. Everybody thinks and defends what they believe to be right. And so in this world we have two universes who are defending what they believe to be right and defending their rights and their legacy and their children and their families. So if we can achieve that so that an audience says, I'm not sure who to barrack for. Do you use that term barrack? It means like root for if you're watching a game of football. You're just not sure who the good guys are. Who do we barrack for here? Who's the good guys and who's the bad guys? You know, is Walton overtly evil because he leads his world the way he does, or is he in fact just being a good leader trying to do the right thing? At this stage, I know that people think, oh yes, there's baddies over there, and this character that I'm made up for now is Walton, at the other Walter, and he's a baddie, but in fact he's not. He's a man responding to the needs that he has at the time, and if we can achieve that, that would be really remarkable.